As Australian Prime Minister until September, Tony Abbott oversaw a tough approach towards refugees. Now he's urging European leaders to follow his example.
While Prime Minister, I was loath to give public advice, but because people smuggling is a global problem, and because Australia is the only country that's successfully defeated it, our experience should be studied.
In 2012, thousands of refugees were coming by boat via Indonesia to Australia's Christmas Island. Most, after a period in detention, were able to stay. That stopped from 2013. Abbott thinks European leaders should adopt the tactics he did.
This means turning boats around for people coming by sea. It means denying entry at the border for people with no legal right to come. And it means establishing camps for people who currently have nowhere to go. It will require some force. It will gnaw at our consciences. Yet it is the only way to prevent a tide of humanity surging through Europe and quite possibly changing it forever.
But what Australia did and is doing has been heavily criticised by the United Nations. The world's refugees might not be taking boats to Australia anymore, but they're still fleeing persecution and making desperate journeys elsewhere. Some refugees who did get to Australia just before the crackdown have now spent more than 2 years languishing in Australian-run prisons in other countries. Abbott thinks they and those now coming to Europe are not genuine refugees.
However desperate, almost by definition, they're economic migrants because they had already escaped persecution when they decided to move again. Right now, this wholesome instinct is leading much of Europe into catastrophic error.
It's extremely tough talk in the face of scenes like these. The leader of the opposition in Australia, even though he broadly supports tough policies, says the former Prime Minister shouldn't lecture Europeans. Human rights groups and religious leaders too are appalled. Andrew Thomas, Al Jazeera, Sydney.